Hey, this week we're talking about microcelebrity. And that's a very specific term that some scholars have given to the type of celebrity that occurs online. It goes hand in hand with thinking of oneself as a brand and acting accordingly. So I've got a lot of things to say about this, but I want to preface this whole video by saying that my understanding of celebrity is really formed by the work of Richard Dyer, who was one of the first big scholars to be writing on this subject. And my understanding of microcelebrity is very much informed by that article that I gave you to read by Jerslev. And I will link to that in the description, but you have it in Canvas as well. In fact, that article gives a great sense of how our understandings of the term celebrity, or what constitutes a celebrity, has changed over time in response to things like social media and, importantly, reality TV. More about that in a bit. So let's start by understanding some terms here, and then I'll describe Jerslev's overall argument a little bit. And then what I'd like to do is tie some of these ideas to really specific examples that I have noticed form a kind of a duality over the past couple of weeks. I will call these examples John K. and Tiger K. I'm just kidding. It's John Krasinski and Tiger King Joe Exotic. Now, a lot of celebrity studies is founded on the work of Richard Dyer, whose 1979 book Stars was really one of the first books to address this set of issues. He wrote that stars are commodities produced by institutions. A star is a constructed image represented across a range of media and mediums. And importantly, they represent and embody certain ideologies. Now, he is largely talking about the concept of hegemony, which we started talking about at the beginning of this class, but we can trace back to the work of Antonio Gramsci and the idea that culture is a contested battleground. Different voices, different ideas are fighting to be heard, and largely the mainstream wins, right? Mainstream ideology, the patriarchy, capitalism, all of these big ideas that remain in all of these structures that have a stake in remaining in power. So that means that stars are always going to have some relationship to the dominant order in some way. But we can also think of stars or celebrity as a field of tension, and this is what Jerslev writes, between pairs of oppositional dimensions such as public and private and ordinary and extraordinary. Stars are both present and absent. You know, they're present in the public eye, and yet we know that they have private lives as well. We know that they are extraordinary people because we're supposed to respect them for some kind of talent, some kind of identity, and yet they used to be ordinary people just like us. So what's going to be important in understanding the concept of microcelebrity is understanding the trajectory from ordinary to extraordinary. Now, part of Jerslev's argument is that we used to think of celebrities as these scarce, precious commodities, these extraordinary beings that have come down from some celestial place in order to grace us with our presence. And much of fandom in the past that centers around celebrities engages with this kind of narrative of scarcity, of preciousness. I mean, I remember the 1990s. And really, like, that's the way that it's been with stars since time immemorial. I mean, they don't interact with the little people on a regular basis. Instead, they're these kind of extraordinary beings. You also can think in terms of the film Notting Hill. Have you ever seen that movie? Where, you know, Hugh Grant is just a regular Joe and Julia Roberts, like, floats down and somehow makes his entire life shiny. That's kind of the narrative of stardom or celebrity that many of us are used to in the past. But the micro-celebrity, the social media celebrity, is a different beast entirely. The micro-celebrity, instead of being far away on this pedestal of some kind, the micro-celebrity is in your face. Instead, there's a kind of aesthetic of abundance, of connectedness, of too closeness, and even of too much information-ness. But that exposure of private life is key to the idea of authenticity. Were I a YouTube celebrity, which I am not, this is what I would do. Hey, look how messy. There's my cat. Say hi, Inga. Just a random shoe. Oh, truly I am a slob, and now you know. Now, we talked about this way earlier on in this class, and I should also say that scholar Nick Coldry talks about it in a 2004 article on Big Brother. But reality TV had a huge impact on the way that we view celebrity. Nick Coldry describes the process through which reality television stars become stars as celebrification, because it's the transition from ordinary or non-media person to celebrity media person that's the entire point of these shows. So games like Big Brother are distinct from shows like Real World, which wasn't a competition exactly. But as reality shows started to evolve, they took on this kind of process of competition. The winner would gain fame. Now, there are other shows, of course, like Survivor that take this to the next level. And in addition to a process of social experimentation, you also have a number of literal games. But we really see the process happening the opposite way, right? So traditional celebrity becomes social media celebrity when we start to see shows like The Osbournes. Now, on The Osbournes, you take a traditional mainstream media celebrity like Ozzy Osbourne, and you show what their house is like, you show what their lives are like, you show them in their pajamas. And then all of a sudden, we get this aesthetic of immediacy, of access. Even though at the beginning here with The Osbournes, it is just an illusion, right? It's this very carefully constructed vision of what this family is like. But this is a step that we take towards the aesthetic of authenticity and immediacy and access that we see in the realm of the micro-celebrity. And hey, remember this? Doesn't this seem so quaint now? Look at how young they are. Oh, look how cute! So the Kardashians, of course, we associate with reality television, but also the increased use of social media as a way to augment celebrity and as a new form of celebrity. The social media celebrity that offers access, that offers constant contact for your entertainment and your aspirations as well. Because let's be real, a lot of these micro-celebrities are also aspirational figures. They're good at doing makeup, they're good at knitting, they're good at playing video games, they're good at something that makes you want to be near them or want to at least see what they have to say about something. Okay. Now, your article talks about Zoella, and that's fine. You should read the article. But here's where I get to my not entirely fair and hot take comparison between this guy and this guy. Both are enjoying a great deal of social media fame right now for entirely different reasons, right? But there's some method in my madness here. I want us to think about these two public figures as characters who are thinking about the persona that they are constructing and have been for a long time. Now, I am not throwing any shade on John Krasinski. I'll take a bullet for John Krasinski. But let's just take a second and let's think about the way in which he's constructing his good-natured persona here. What are the elements? Think about location. Think about the sign. Think about the strategic use of jams in the first episode. If you haven't watched any of these episodes, what I'd like you to do is go and watch at least one of them. I'll link to the first one. Oh, my children. I will link to the first one in the description, and think about the way that he has taken his mainstream celebrity status and translated it into a time of micro-celebrity. What he has done is reconstructed his persona in a particular cultural moment, and he's done it very successfully. Again, no shade, I love it, but let's compare it to the opposite thing happening to my friend and yours, not unproblematic, but Joe Exotic. Now, if you haven't seen Tiger King on Netflix, this might not make a ton of sense to you, and I do recommend watching it. It's a roller coaster of a show, and as everybody knows, it's a great way to spend quarantine. Very diverting. But part of the point here is that Joe Exotic, as we see over the course of the show, wants mainstream fame more than anything, but he's trying to achieve it through this kind of aesthetic of abundance, the same sort of aesthetic that Jerslev discusses in her article. He builds his own TV studio, which is also the crocodile house of his zoo, which probably wasn't a good idea. And he is constantly making a web series. He also has cameras following him around all the time. So there's, again, this sense of abundance, of constant access to Joe Exotic. This is also true of Carol Baskin as well. Hey, cats and kittens. But what I really think is interesting here is that, yes, Joe Exotic did achieve a degree of micro-celebrity. But what did it take for him to achieve mainstream celebrity? It took gatekeeping. It took Netflix. It took a documentary filmmaker who spent 5 years of his life on this. And then it took Netflix's carefully timed, did they do this on purpose? It took Netflix's gatekeeping for the wider public to understand who Joe Exotic was. But not understand exactly, but at least be aware of. So it's interesting, these processes, these flows of celebrification happen in a lot of different ways in our culture today. So here's what I want you to think about, and here's what I want you to discuss this week in our discussion board. I want you to talk about your favorite micro-celebrities. How have you interacted with them? What constitutes their brand? Jerslev talks about the ways in which we see authenticity, the way in which we see trustworthiness through choices that are made through mise-en-scène, that are made through cinematography, like this idea of direct address, the use of close-ups, things like that, and this idea of access, the idea that we watch as things happen. And we have this constant sense of communication, this back and forth, this constant circle of feedback that connects audience to performer. So I want you to talk about the way all of those things function together in the micro-celebrities that you follow. And also, you can talk about the term micro-celebrity. Is it fair? Some of these terms Jerslev problematizes in her article. So any of that you want to discuss, I am there for that as well. And if you have some opinions about Joe Exotic and or John Krasinski, I would love to hear about it. All right, that's it for now.